Welcome. In this lesson, we are going to go over data types. Specifically, what data types are, the most common data types, the data types that are supported by MySQL, how data types affect what you can do, and how to choose the best data types for you. So let's get started by going over what data types are. Data types are classifications for data that help to identify what kind of data is going to be stored, as well as how it will be used. What this means is that in effect, you can think of them as identifiers for the containers the data is going to be placed in. In fact, there is an easy comparison with something you are probably already familiar with. That's right. Just like the labels on these containers, data types determine what kind of information should be stored in the container. Also, just like these recycling containers, the data type labels aren't arbitrary. They matter because of what's going to be done with what's inside the container. If you put glass inside a paper container, then when it comes time to run the process, there are going to be problems. The same is true for data types. With that in mind, let's talk about what kinds of data types there are. Although there are dozens of different recognized data types, ranging from the common, like containers for numbers, to the obscure, like containers designed to store coordinates for locations in three-dimensional space, for now we're not going to be too concerned with the data types that are rarely used. We're going to focus on the data types that are most common, the ones you're actually likely to see. Those data types can be broken down into three broad categories. The first category is the numeric category. As the name suggests, these types deal with various kinds of numbers. The numerical types you are most likely to run into are integer, float, and decimal. The integer type primarily deals with whole numbers, while the floats can store numbers or numbers with decimals. However, it can round numbers and it truncates leading and trailing zeros. The decimal type is like the float type, but it stores the exact number without any rounding or truncating. The second category is called date time and relates to storing dates. The most common of these types are date, date time, and timestamp. Date stores only the date, usually in year, month, day format. Date time stores both the day and the time in hours, minutes, and seconds. Timestamp also stores the date and time, but it converts the time from its current time zone into the UTC time zone. And when you retrieve the information, it will automatically convert the time to the time zone of the requesting client. Finally, we have strings. Strings are one of the most versatile types because they can store all kinds of letters and characters. Everything from a person's name to an account code that may have both letters and numbers together. The most commonly used string data types are char, varchar, and blob. These data types are a bit different from the others, as they all store the same types of information, but they store them in different ways. Char can store information of up to 255 characters in length, and it fills any remaining room with spaces, so it's always the same size. Next, we have varchar. Varchar, instead of having a set number of characters, is instead limited by the space that it is used by the data it's stored. It does not fill with spaces, so smaller strings take up less space. The maximum space used cannot exceed 65,535 bytes. Last, we have the blob. Blob data type, which stands for binary large object, can store up to 65,535 characters. However, it stores the text as binary data, ones and zeros, so it has to be converted back in order to be readable, and that requires more processing. Well, we've covered a lot of information so far, so let's pick up the rest of the lesson in the next video.